Slapshot time, baby.
Yeah.
Reviewsday Tuesday. We've made it. I don't think the Flyers have like traded for Shane Pinto or anything. So here we are. It's actually going to happen. We're going to Kelly's shaking her head. We're going to talk about the movie. And I just want to, like, if you haven't seen it, check out my interview with Dave Hansen. I watched this movie.
How many times do you think you've seen this movie?
How many times have you gone to the bathroom in your life? It was a lot of fun getting to talk to one of the Hansen brothers.
Look at Bill's face.
You're so happy.
Oh, dude, it was
Makes me so happy.
I was like, I'm just gonna bullshit with this guy about the movie, and it was really fun. Dave Hansen, this has always been the wildest thing to me. So Dave Hansen, his character in the movie, there's actually three brothers, the Carlson brothers. They were on the Johnstown Jets in the 70s. All three of them were supposed to be the Hansen brothers in the movies. One of them actually couldn't make it because his team was in the playoffs. So he filled in as a Hansen brother. And then Killer Carlson is based on Dave Hansen. That just went to some other random guy.
Everything about this movie
very,
rules.
very weird.
The lore.
Very
the lore
funny.
is extensive.
But that's the thing I had to say to him was like, you were in a movie in the 70s with Paul freaking Newman. And if you were to poll 100 random hockey fans, they would mention the Hansen brothers before they mentioned Reg Dunlop. He's like, yeah, man, my life has been crazy. I've been playing this character now. So I've been watching this movie. I saw this way too young, wildly inappropriate. But like, this is what happens when a lot of your friends are a few years older than you. And, you know, we all played hockey. And then like rainy days, my buddy would bring over the VHS tape of Slapshot. Like, let's watch this. I'm like, all right, John, you're like 12 and I'm 7. Yeah, let's watch this movie. Let's watch this movie, I guess.
Wow.
What was the first time you saw the movie? Like, can you remember being like, oh, yeah, this is like a hockey classic? Like, was it a thing you remember seeing young?
I wasn't too young. There was a period of time when I was really settling into being a hockey person, which in the late 90s was like a very niche thing to be. And so I kind of just started like absorbing hockey things. It's like when I got into the Tragically Hip. It's when I saw Slapshot. It's like when I took my first road trip to Canada to see juniors games. Like it was like a period of time in like the early aughts when I was doing all of these things. And that's when I saw Slapshot. I believe I rented it from a Blockbuster.
From a Blockbuster.
Yeah, I don't have the like as a kid watching Slapshot.
Right.
What I remember about Slapshot was that it was one of those movies where like my dad would talk about how funny it is, but then be like, "You can't watch it."
Yeah.
Like when you can watch that when you're old, you can't watch it. So
Yeah.
I think I first watched it probably in like my early 20s.
Okay.
I think
Okay.
it was when it was like, okay, I should probably watch all these movies that like you need to watch, and that was one of them. And I think I just rented it and watched it.
I just remember there's this one time, like my grandparents, and they were like older, religious people, but like, you know, would watch a good comedy. And my mom was like, "Oh, this hockey movie you and your dad are always talking about. Let's watch that with Pop." I was like,
Maybe
I
not. Maybe not.
I don't know how to say we shouldn't do that without like ratting myself out here. So I guess I'll just put this on and see what happens. And we got like 10 minutes in, and my mom was like, "What the fuck is this? How are you even letting him watch this?" And my dad's like, "I don't know." Like, he's just blaming me. God damn it, I'm a child. How's this my fault? You just let me watch it. I don't know.
Incredible.
But it is a movie that I feel like so many hockey fans saw way too young. I remember reading this Bill Simmons article back in the day, and it was Kate Winslet said she wasn't doing nude scenes anymore. It was like for a certain generation, that's like first nude scene you ever saw. For his generation, he was like, Slapshot. I was like, shit, me too. I'm like 20 years younger than you. Like, and that's just the kind of movie it was. And it had all these things.
Well, I think there's an element with Slapshot too, and this can't be removed from the appeal of Slapshot. It's a good movie, to be sure, but there aren't a ton of hockey movies.
Yes.
No.
And
absolutely.
And there also aren't a ton of hockey movies, really aren't a ton of hockey movies that try to capture the, like, I don't even want to say darker side, but just like kind of like the seedy underbelly
Yes.
of hockey.
Yeah.
That's the like. This isn't
the Mighty Ducks.
Certainly not a children's movie
No.
like the Mighty Ducks. It's not an inspiring movie like Miracle, which is based on a true story.
Right.
Like this, it's not like an NHL movie. This is as far away from the show as you can get, like small town, minor league hockey. And like, yeah, this is, I mean, shit, in the 90s with the AHL, this is still how they drew in fans. Like, yeah, man, of course. Like, we have some young players and some guys who are just, as we call them now.
But we got the animal.
Quad A guys. But it's like, we have to have like 4 fighters on every team, man.
right.
Like, this is the way it goes.
Yeah, that's how it goes.
This is how we get people to come watch hockey. But I will say, like, beyond the violence and the vulgarity and the great laughs, and those are all real good reasons to watch this movie, there is, like, this tragic story of Reggie Dunlop. And, like, Paul Newman, I think, does an outstanding, outstanding job in this movie of, like, guy well past his prime. He looks 100 out there on the ice. And he's like holding on in this federal league in this small, mill town in middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania. And I've always loved the idea, like the players on the team who are or will be one day in his spot where they have nothing else. They need him, so they believe his bullshit. Killer Carlson, Denny Lemieux, the captain, Johnny, like Ned's wife, Lily, who's like stuck in this town, has nothing else going on. Like, yeah, I buy into whatever bullshit you're selling. And then, like, his wife, who's seen everything, is like, this guy's a fucking moron. And Ned, who they make a point to tell you, like, he went to college. He doesn't need hockey.
Right.
He's like, you're making shit up, man. I don't believe this for a second. And then the owner, who's like, yeah, man, I don't care. I'd rather fold the team than sell it. They all don't buy in. They all roll his eyes at his bullshit and, like, him tragically like trying to push the boulder up the hill and make something happen that is never going to happen, I think is a tremendous story as well. But the thing everyone will take away from it is the vulgarity and violence.
Oh, yeah.
Like that's what makes the movie what it is.
Oh, to be sure. I will say though, like that diatribe that you just went through, it's interesting, but I won't say that when I rewatched it for this that I had those kinds of deep thoughts. I did not. But what I will say is that seeing it, because I haven't watched this movie in a few years. I've probably watched this movie 3 or 4 times. This is like the 3rd or 4th time I've seen it. The ending is better than I remember because it is one of those legitimately good, ambiguous endings where like he comes up to his ex-wife and he's walking alongside the car and he's spinning another yarn of he's taking the team to Minnesota. And like, you want to believe that he's actually pulling it off. And she's just like, okay, bye.
I love how she gives so little of a shit.
Yeah.
She is moving out in the middle of the parade. It is the middle of the championship parade, and she's like, I got my trailer. I'm getting the fuck out of town, man. The mill's closing. I don't give a shit.
But like in so many ways, it is a dumb, vulgar movie.
Yeah.
But the ending is actually legitimately a little artistic.
Yeah.
Because you have it's a commentary on just how full of shit this guy is. And like, maybe it's true.
They won the championship.
Maybe they are going to Minnesota, but like he's just run out of bullshit to sell, at least with this one woman.
I have seen this movie hundreds of times. Did they ever tell you that they're like in the championship until they're like in the championship?
No.
It just sort of happens.
Yeah, it does just sort of happen.
It just sort of
Yeah.
freaking
There's no real
happens.
playoff run.
Because like they play Syracuse, and then it's like, oh, surprise, we're playing Syracuse again, and it's the title.
So I wanted to ask you guys a question about this. So I can't remember. The problem is that we like each other, so we talk sometimes not on this show, and I can't remember if we talked about it there. But anyway, we've talked about how the Flyers, when they won the Cups, were legitimately like stars. Like not kind of like way more than hockey players are now when they win the Cup. Like people knew who the Broad Street Bullies were. They were fucking famous.
Locally or nationally?
Nationally.
Okay, yeah.
Like they were
Locally, they definitely were. I mean, they would just
but
walk
I mean,
in
like,
stores and
so
people
I
knew
think
they were.
nationally they were. I mean, not like LeBron level, but they were more like everyone. I feel like a lot of people knew who they were without being like diehard hockey fans. And I wonder like if the Bullies hadn't been such a thing and hadn't won the way that they did and been the Broad Street Bullies and had that moniker, like would this movie like written by a random woman about her brother, I think, who played in this shitty hockey
Ned
league.
Dowd played
he
on
was
these
Ogie,
teams.
and he plays Ogie.
Yeah.
Ogie Oglethorpe.
Somehow you get Paul Newman in this movie, and it turns into like an actual Holly. Like, I just wonder if like that little bit of like Philadelphia cultural touchstone like played a part in this movie actually getting to be what it was.
It might have.
I
Like,
think it absolutely, given that it came out in 77,
Exactly.
like, I think it
77, right.
absolutely had to.
like, let's be honest. Hollywood producers and Hollywood studios, they're not original.
Oh, no.
And you can see it if you watch, like, when a movie pops up today, like, you can, if you think about it for more than a few seconds, you can envision how that was pitched to the studio.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, like, imagine this, but with this. And it's like, oh, that's how that movie got
Yeah,
pitched.
right.
And I would not be at all shocked if Slapshot was pitched as, what if the Broad Street Bullies, but in small town,
Right.
middle of nowhere?
Yeah, with, you know, labor and ownership and what happens when a mill leaves a city. Like, there's all kinds of, you know, minutia.
Like, what
in
if we
this
took
movie.
that
Yeah.
and put it in minor league hockey in the
Right.
middle of nowhere,
Right,
and
yeah.
then got a star to be the lead? And it's like, sure, we'll fund that one. Why not?
Yeah. I don't know. I wonder that when I was
definitely
watching
think
it.
that is a major part of it, and it's definitely like a major part of its appeal to me. Like,
for sure.
and like, I've been trying. I don't know if we're going to be able to make it happen, but like, Paul Holmgren was on the Johnstown Jets.
We
He
talked
never
about
played
it.
with Ned Dowd. Dowd was there like the 2 years before him, but he played with the Carlson brothers. Like, he played with Dave Hansen. Like, they were teammates, and
neat.
like, he ran the fucking Flyers at one point. You know, like, that is absolutely freaking insane to me. We're gonna get into like some of the stuff, favorite character, scene line. Like, we have the whole graphic and everything. Have you guys ever seen any of the sequels?
No, I have
There's
not.
a 2 and a 3.
I have not.
I think I might have seen 2 and then blocked it out from my consciousness.
2
Because I don't
is-
remember anything from
I would
it.
imagine like none of the big stars are in the
No,
series, right?
just the hand.
Just the
Hanson
hands.
brothers,
Yeah.
2 is the team somehow still exists, and they get sold to this. It's basically they're going to be the Washington Generals, and
Okay.
there's a team that's going to be the Globetrotters, and it's like this traveling fucking nonsense thing. And they eventually get worn down and are like, nah, we're just going to beat the shit out of them. Like, that's, I have never seen 3.
Starring the Biodome guy.
yeah,
number 2.
but it's I wouldn't recommend any of the sequels.
No,
I
you don't need to
can't
waste your
imagine
time
they're
with the
great.
sequels. No.
But
watch
let's
the
get
real
to
one.
let's get to some of the stuff that I wanted to do. The favorite character. Let's start with favorite characters.
I
Um,
mean,
Now,
I truly did not know which way this was going to go, and
Really?
then figured out very quickly that me and Kelly are absolutely on the same page here.
yeah, it's Denny
It's
Lemieux.
Denny Lemieux. He's so good.
you
so
guys,
funny.
the rookie goalie Denny Lemieux, and trade me right fucking now when he's just on the phone trying to, like, someone's just telling him what to say,
With
like
that perfect French Canadian accent.
Then
It's
hang up.
so good. Hang up. Like, it's, owns.
First of all, can we talk about him being rookie? How old was everyone in the 1970s? It's so funny that people looked so old back then.
I'll tell you, this comes up all the time when you're like, this is what my grandfather looked
Yeah.
like when he served in World War, and it's like he looks like he's 90
Right.
and he's 18.
Yes.
Smoking indoors
Seriously.
is absolutely there. There's never been a better advertisement against smoking inside than what people looked like in the 60s and 70s
Yeah.
compared to
Just
now.
so old.
Like,
Yeah, it's a good point.
Like,
That is a good point. No, Denny Lemieux is definitely my favorite character. And he's not in like all of the scenes, but whenever he's in a scene, it's one of the funniest
exactly.
scenes.
He's
Like,
making you laugh hysterically.
I will get to this overarching scene because when we get into it, but one of my low-key, and I'd honestly forgotten about it until I rewatched it, when Ogie Oglethorpe comes in and then he's just like, Oglethorpe! It's so good. And he's like horrified. Like the sincere look of horror on his face when he like says Oglethorpe's name in a French Canadian accent is the best.
French Canadian accents are so good.
they
Because they're
really
not
are.
like regular French accents.
No.
They're something entirely
No.
different.
Something
I have
entirely
like
different.
burned into my brain, this is like very random, a memory of Marty Biron on television talking about something, and he said toothpaste instead of toothpaste, and it's like seared into my memory. It's like one of my favorite things. Anywho, I love the French Canadians.
For my favorite character, I mentioned this to Dave Hansen in the interview. Like the efficiency of Mo in this movie, every time he's on the screen, he is being absolutely ridiculous.
Yes.
Like he's never not on screen being hilarious. And I love like the faces he makes, like his mannerisms, the stories he tells, which are absolutely definitely lies and ridiculous.
Oh yeah.
Like he's, to me, one of the funniest characters in the movie. And like there's so many little characters, like Walt the bus driver.
Oh yeah, he's good.
Like just hitting the bus with a sledgehammer.
Yeah.
Walt, what are you doing? Making it look mean. Just hitting it with a fucking sledgehammer. Like there's so many good little characters in this movie that make it so great. But I got to go with Mo because just
one.
like his faces and shit that he makes are so great. Favorite scenes, and like every scene in this, like when I was watching it, I was like, I'm gonna write this one down. I've written down the whole movie. Like now I have literally written down the whole movie, but I think you two are again kind of on the same page here.
Okay, so my favorite scene, and there are great lines in this scene, but it's just the entire overarching scene is start to finish hilarious, is when they're setting up for the title game, and you find out that Syracuse is bringing in all the ringers, and they just start like leading them out. Like you have the one when they bring in the one guy whose nickname is Poodle, and the guy's like, "Not Poodle."
That might be Frankie's favorite line in the movie. He has named his fantasy team Not Poodle multiple times.
Like, again,
amazing.
Like sincere, genuine horror of like, oh my god, and then they bring, and like again, this is something that like doesn't age terribly well, but they bring out the Native American. But just I will never not laugh at him saying he calls everyone he plays little scalps. Like it's great. And then they bring out Ogie Oglethorpe, which like they do. And again, like it's a dumb movie, but they do such a good job of setting it up. It's like Chekhov's hockey player.
Yeah.
Like they spend the whole movie like just in little asides talking about this lunatic Ogie Oglethorpe, and you forget about it because it's just like, oh, like that's just like, you know, they're just shooting the shit in the locker room, whatever. And then when you see the PA announcer like and he's like, oh my god, and then you're like, oh my god, they're bringing out Ogie, and then they do, and he looks just as ridiculous as you would think with the afro and just the look of horror of everyone on the bench, and then you have Denny being like, Oglethorpe. It's just start to finish like a good 2 minutes of just constant laughing.
Yes. Also, based on another real player, Bob Goldthorpe. I think there's a book about it, like the real story of Ogie Oglethorpe. It's this guy Bob Oglethorpe. Like, it just. I love when they're announcing him and they're like, his deportation back to Canada and that country's subsequent refusal to accept it. It's like, and now he's just allowed to play for Syracuse.
I almost picked that as my favorite line,
it's very funny.
But then I decided no, it's just the whole scene.
It's a very good scene.
There's my excellent stuff. Kelly, what's your? Yours is okay.
I mean, I was gonna do the chalk pick, which is the interview with Denny at the beginning, which is hilarious, start to finish. But just like one of those little scenes that made me laugh hysterically is when the ref is like, they're doing a national anthem and the ref, you can like see him like stewing. And then he turns around and he goes to the Hansons and he starts yelling at them. They're just like, we're listening to the song.
Yeah, that's my favorite line.
Yeah. It's very funny.
Listen to the fucking song.
There's this scene where it's when Paul Newman is trying to make Ned crazy by constantly picking at and hitting on his wife.
Right.
And his wife is in the park drinking, kind of spying on Ned as he's like talking to other women around town. He's really going to blow her away with his views on life, like all the crazy shit Ned probably thinks. Funny. And she just like, there's this statue of a dog in the park that they're in. She goes, what's the story with that dog? It's like, saved Charlestown from the 1939 flood. Well, fuck him. I absolutely love that scene so much. It's so good. There's so many good ones in this movie. I think like coaching. My favorite. Was my favorite line. The favorite scene is the when Reg goes to confront the general manager about acquiring the Hansons. And he's after he sees them like playing with race cars in their hotel room. He just goes, they brought their fucking toys with them. Rather have them playing with their toys than playing with themselves. They're too stupid to play with themselves. Reg, that reminds me. Coaching in Omaha back in 48. Eddie Shore sends me this player. Terrible masturbator. He used to get deliberate penalties to get alone in the penalty box all by himself.
Oh my God.
Damned if he wouldn't. He just makes this ridiculous. I laugh hysterically at that scene every time. But yeah, the favorite line I had for fuck him.
The one that I almost...
Kids, if you're watching, you shouldn't see this movie till you're
not
honestly,
yet.
this
You'll
really
get there.
explains
You'll
the
get
way
there.
I
It's
am.
It very much does. The other scene that I considered, or even line, but really it's a scene, and it's just one of those iconic scenes that everybody brings up, but it's iconic for a good reason. When Denny Lemieux goes into the office, who owned the Chiefs? Owns, and then he goes, owns, and then Paul Newman's right there, like, what did he say? He said owns. And he's like, oh god damn it! Like, just such a good,
like he's just not gonna get like the GM is just like, yeah, I'm not giving you an answer. Dog. Like the artful dodging of the questions,
but
like
the owns is so good. And then him mimicking it the best.
What were the other favorite lines? Because I messed the whole thing
the English
up
pig
already.
with no brains from the Lemieux interview.
That's the
my favorite
opening
line.
interview where he explains all the penalties.
Right.
I was telling Bill, I forgot that was the open. It's been so long since I've seen this movie. I forgot that was like the opening scene of the movie.
It's
and
a fantastic.
So
He's
fucking
fantastic cold open.
Yes.
Denny is mic'd up, and he goes and takes a piss, and then he comes back. It's like trying to get the mic back on him. It's really, really good stuff. But I remember like my coach in middle school, like I'm in the penalty box, and he's just like, you go in the box 2 minutes by yourself. I'm like, huh, you know? He's like, yes, I know it, Bill.
Everyone
like,
knows it.
How would I fucking not know it? I just was like, oh my God, my favorite thing. He's like, yes, of course I know this movie.
Feel shame. Gotta feel shame.
And you go 2 minutes by yourself, you feel shame.
Feel shame.
And then you are free.
And then you were free, yeah.
Charlie, what was your favorite line?
My favorite.
Oh, yours was the
my
anthem,
favorite
yeah.
line is to listen to the fucking
Yes,
song.
it's very good.
As much as I
It's
love
just how they look too.
Yes.
They're like the glasses are all mangled. They're blood all over them. So before the game even started, and it's just like, and then they're so sincere.
Yeah.
About like, no, like, yeah, we are crazy goons, but when that national anthem,
We honor the anthem.
We honor the anthem.
in this house, we stand for the anthem, goddamn. No, that's really good stuff. Worst characters. This one was tough for me because I just love it so much. But I had to go with Johnny Upton, who is the captain of the team. And I simply don't like him because he's the only guy who wears a helmet.
Ooh.
Okay.
Now, maybe he's a genius, especially.
Well, some would say,
At
yes.
one point, he's getting his head banged on the ice, and it's like, well, thank God. But you know what? It's the 70s. What are you wearing a helmet out there for? But
a
my
fair
one
point.
neighbor did have this helmet, and we would all fight over like trying to grab it and wear it in street hockey, like the old blue, like Jofa or something.
Yeah.
But that's it. He's my least favorite character.
I think my least favorite, and it's less about him, because I think in a movie like this, you do need a character like this, but like it's Braden, because he's just like he's the straight man. He's the boring guy who doesn't get any of this madness. And like, I get why he's in it. You kind of need that pivot. Like you need that fulcrum for everything else to revolve around. I get it. But like, he is just a buzzkill.
Yes.
Like the entire movie, he's a buzzkill. And like, yeah, in the end, he does the striptease, and that's funny. But and of course, like that's the the commentary of the movie is like everyone's totally fine with all this violence, but then like you inject a little bit of like, you know,
Balls, no way.
yeah, like that's just the most horrifying thing in the world, which is funny. But like for most of the movie, you're just kind of like, oh, come on, dude.
Yeah.
Like, have some fun. Lighten up.
Yes.
And I did like I loved the like after the first one where Hanrahan jumps Reg and then they score on the empty net and they don't have a backup goal. He's like, it's a garbage win. It's wrestling shit out there. And then he does like the ultimate pageantry, like he's stripping down. Like the turn that he takes is tremendous. But yeah, he's an absolute freaking buzzkill.
Yeah.
college-educated douche.
For similar reasons, I don't like Lily. She's just
his wife.
His wife.
Right.
She's just like so whiny and annoying. Like, get a fucking hobby. Like, go volunteer at an animal shelter. Why are you so whiny all the time? Like, I'm so sorry your life sucks so bad that you have to live in this shitty little town. Figure out something besides drinking and driving your van around.
She does drink a lot.
A lot.
A lot.
And she took the dog.
Yeah.
That's all Ned wanted. He said, you take the van, I'll take the dog. And then she takes both when she leaves.
And then,
Like, you
of
had
course,
to
when
take
they
the
win,
dog,
she's
too.
out there with the dress on and the makeup. She's there when they win. Oh, now you're happy, aren't you? Fair weather.
Absolutely. Before we finish up this conversation about Slapshot, which, Jesus, I can't wait to see the comments. Like, this movie is the least appropriate thing in the world. And it's absolutely true. Like, it is an offensive movie. But regardless.
We all silly like the mayor.